This is the CLD endorsement field log that we completed for our student teaching hours. We were required to have a minimum of 119 hours, which showed us observing, analyzing our teaching, and interacting with our ELL students. We then completed this field log for the entire semester, which showed what type of activities we did to specifically work with our ELL students. We're also required to have a minimum of 8 hours with meeting and discussing and planning with our support teacher. And then we had to have a minimum of 8 hours of doing this log. So I'm going to go down below and I'm going to show you how this log was completed. So here is the first column in which we showed what activities we're doing. So my first activity that I started with was spelling, and I did an interactive word wall, word walk and talk, and guess the word. So those are my 3 activities. The next column was whether it was a push in or pull out. All of the activities that I did for this was a push in. Due to our staff and our school, most activities are push in and required by the classroom teacher, which was me. The next column is the students' number, what tier they were on, and what language they spoke and what grade they're in. So during this semester, I was a 4th grade teacher. My students were anywhere on a 3rd, 4th, or 5 level on the tier for the ELL list. The next column is date and hours you participated in the activities. So for here, I started on January 3rd of 2017, and it was an ongoing thing for my spelling and interactive word wall. The next thing for a word walk and talk, it used as an anchor chart and used in activities. And then the guess the word, we did once per week per activity, 5 days each, which at 10 days at 30 minutes each was equaled a total of 5 hours. The next column was a brief reflection on how this activity assisted to be a more effective CLD teacher. So for here, I said that it was a great resource for CLD students to look to when having a difficult time remembering brick words. These are academic vocabulary words that are changed throughout the room so that the students have a place to look to when they are searching for a vocabulary word we're using and exploring in a lesson. These are the vocabulary words that are being used in all of our subjects in real time. The students also create a list of these words in their reading journals. This makes it so they always have a resource to turn to. So this would work as a tier. So some of the students would be able to not use this. They would already have that academic vocabulary word in their master memory and their long-term memory. But for the students that needed help, like my level 3 ELL student, they would have this to look to for that assistance and understanding what was being expected of them. So this log connects to how I was able to tier the lessons and what students were able to use this. Then the next column here was the Colorado academic standards and what standards hit for these activities. And then the next one was the CLD education preparation standards, which were my standards, my teaching standards. So as we continue down, you can see the next thing was a writing activity. It was a push-in. It was the same students as before, so it was the same students each time in my classroom since I was a general ed teacher. I started this activity on 126 and finished on 127. I had a 90-minute session, so 2 sessions equaled 3 hours total. So here it talks about how I had the students journal about their experience climbing Mount Everest. So I pulled in multiple media sources for them to use. As it says here, a guest speaker, I had an IMAX video. We had read text. So then they were to create a scene on what would occur in Mount Everest. So I used their minds and all of the visuals and the guest speakers to help them write this. So I would also use a graphic organizer that looks like a mountain to help them with their memory and be able to write a good piece on what it would be like to climb Mount Everest. So I use multiple media, text, guest speakers to show how much they would need to assist them in their tiers. So my level 5 student may not need to have such a detailed graphic organizer to have a solid writing piece. But my level 3, they could use all of these pieces, and then it would help them with their vocabulary to be able to write their Everest piece. Then continuing down, we have a math push in, same students. I did 18 lessons at an hour per lesson, so that equaled a total of 18 hours. So again, here I've embedded visuals for certain students, have pulled multiple resources. I used manipulatives for the students that needed them. I had multiple sources of media for them if they needed it. So again, so my level 3, I would provide them with a Spanish English worksheet. My level 5, maybe just provide them with manipulatives. It was there for them if they needed it. My main focus was working on that academic rich vocabulary, which using these pieces and all these tools provided them with the ability to use that academic language. And then here I have a reading. This is our Success for All reading program. Again, push in, same students. You can see here the amount of hours that were put into this activity. And then you can look through here on how that became a tiered lesson. And then here I incorporated our seed meetings, which is our weekly team meetings. And again, you can look here to see how many hours were put in. This is how I was able to become a better CLD instructor, by using the seed meetings. And then at the bottom of every page, it has the total of how many hours were inputted. So as you go through each of these documents, it's the same format, but you can see how many hours I put in and how I affected the CLD students and what I did to become a better instructor.